I'm back! It's been a long time. It's been a long time. It's been a long, lonely time. But now, if I may mix my 70s rock metaphors, I am back in the saddle with another Leaving Fundamentalism vlog. So today I'd like to talk to you about Brenda Lewis, and I'm aware that this could seem a bit like a personal attack because up until now I've only talked about organisations. I've talked about Accelerated Christian Education and the International Certificate of Christian Education. And I'd like to make clear that to my memory I've never met Brenda Lewis. I have nothing against her personally. I'm talking about her in her professional capacity here as the head of King of Kings School in Manchester and as the chair of the International Certificate of Christian Education, the ICCE. And in this capacity, Brenda Lewis seems to have a bit of a disease and possibly should see a doctor, because when normal people speak, scary things happening behind me, because when normal people speak, there's kind of a filter there that stops them from saying nonsense, whereas when Brenda Lewis speaks, it is as though the bullshit goes straight from her subconscious, bypassing her brain and directly out of her mouth. It's remarkable. I first met Brenda Lewis, I say met here in the internet sense, in 2009 when the Times Education supplement covered my complaint to UK NARIC that they had recognised the International Certificate of Christian Education and reported that these schools had been teaching that the Loch Ness Monster exists and that's a reason not to believe in evolution. Now, Brenda Lewis, as the chair of the ICCE, had to respond to this in the Times Educational Supplement, and this is what she was quoted as saying. Mrs. Lewis had not noticed the Loch Ness Monster claims, which she suggested may have been a slip at the typewriter. A slip at the typewriter? What were they trying to write? Oh, I meant to write, evolution is an incredibly well-supported theory with multiple lines of evidence in its favour, but what I actually slipped and wrote was, the Loch Ness Monster exists. The other thing that the Times Education Supplement reported was that ACE schools were teaching a lesson that defended the use of apartheid in South Africa. And again, it says, Mrs. Lewis said that she had never seen the apartheid claims, but stressed that British teachers would challenge them strongly. Now, this is a doubtful claim to make, and here's why. According to her school's website, she founded the school in Manchester in 1986 and used Accelerated Christian Education from the beginning. This report is in 2009, so she's been teaching for 24 years at this point. In 1994, I just had a maths fail there, didn't I? Fuck it. So in 1994, ACE introduced this book which said that apartheid perhaps wasn't so bad, and some people benefited from it because it allowed them to pass on their culture to their children. And so Brenda Lewis had been supplying this book to children in her capacity as head of the school from 1994 to 2009, and in 2009 she says she's never noticed it. So how can it possibly be true that she would challenge any claims about apartheid strongly if she doesn't even know what her own school is teaching? And she's got the same thing with the Loch Ness Monster. She said that she didn't know about it. Fast forward a couple of years, I don't know exactly how far, there's this video on YouTube in which she is talking about the ICCE, and it was uploaded in April 2013, but there's some of the context in the video makes it clear that it's a bit older than that. And this is what she says about the fact that, so NARIC had withdrawn temporarily its support for the ICCE because of the stuff about the Loch Ness Monster. And she's explaining this to an audience of Christian teachers, presumably, at some kind of Christian Education Europe conference. And this is what she says.
So this summer they removed that comparability statement from their website while they investigated the criticisms. Only 2 could be substantiated. One is a speculative sentence on the back page of a science piece that there might even now be plesiosaurs in Loch Ness for all we know.
That's not what it said. It wasn't a sentence, it was a paragraph, and it said clearly that there was a monster in Loch Ness and that it appeared to be a plesiosaur. What it taught was so ridiculous that even in front of a sympathetic audience of ACE users and supporters, she couldn't bring herself to say what it had actually said. But let's look at what it actually said, because it bears repeating. Have you heard of the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland? Nessie, for short, has been recorded on sonar from a small submarine, described by eyewitnesses and photographed by others. Nessie appears to be a plesiosaur. While I'm on the subject, how is it more defensible to say there might be plesiosaurs in Loch Ness for all we know? That's what she softened it to make it less embarrassing, but that's still a stupid and embarrassing statement, and it says a lot about the audience that she's talking to, that she wasn't howled down for suggesting that was in any way defensible thing to say.
And the second one, for the truly inadmissible statement in one of the social studies pieces that apartheid might have done the victims some good. However, NARIC has now put us back again on their website with disclaimers to those two sentences.
They weren't sentences, they were paragraphs. Not only can she not bring herself to admit the truth of what was said in terms of how bad it was, but also she has to make out that it's less content than it actually was. So then we come to the most recent time that Brenda Lewis has been in the news, and that's because of the Manchester Evening News, which has run a joyous article with the headline, "Wives Should Submit to Their Husbands, Say Textbooks Used in 3 Manchester Schools." She, of course, is the head of one of these schools and has therefore been asked to supply comment. And what she says is enlightening. She says, "The textbooks in isolation only show a very small part of a very large curriculum." Well, for one thing, this is a shit argument, because it doesn't matter how small a part of curriculum misogyny and homophobia and pseudoscience are, they shouldn't be on the curriculum at all. But anyway, a very tiny, very small, let me not misquote her here, a very small part of a very large curriculum. Now, according to the prospectus on her school's website, on the other hand, accelerated Christian education forms the body of the curriculum. Now, can something be a very small part and also form the body of something? I'm not convinced that it can, but we don't actually have to be quite this speculative about it, because they have their school timetable on their website, and we can look at this and see that it's a 7-hour school day with more than an hour of breaks, leaving us with about 5 hours and 50 minutes per day of actual work time. Of that, 3 hours, more than half, is spent on the accelerated Christian education curriculum. So she told the Manchester Evening News that ACE forms a very small part of the curriculum, but actually it's half. Why is it that she's not capable of recalling accurate information, seemingly, when she gets interviewed by the press or even by her own colleagues about accelerated Christian education? This, I think, deserves investigation. So, thank you very much. Actually, I would talk to you also about a person called Greg Hibbins from Christian Education Europe, but I think I'll save that for next time. I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much. I knew there was something else. So, apparently Brenda Lewis added that the science curriculum had helped a student to gain a place to study natural sciences at Oxford University. Now, it's profoundly unlikely that that's true. You know why? Because, as anyone who's been to Oxford University can tell you, Oxford University doesn't do a degree in natural sciences.